Here we are. It's January 31st, 2026, and what we're looking at here is what we call Permaledger, which is a database web-based application that we use to track all our work. Permaledger came from farmOS, and farmOS is a open source project which has been used quite widely, which is used to track single farms and everything that goes on that farm. We've adapted it into what we've called Permaledger. We forked the code and we made slight changes so that we can use it for multiple locations. Our main focus is all around seeds, and it's what comes from seeds and what we're able to save back into seeds. What we're looking at here, just to scroll down slightly, it tells us the date's the 31st of January 2026, and this is what we've planned as seedings for this year. So as you can see here, there's a date. They're usually in date order. I don't know what they call that, descending, I'm guessing that is. So we're looking at the earliest date in this particular slug first, which is February 1st, which is actually tomorrow. Blimey, I better get moving, haven't I? At this time of year, we're in Oregon, in the United States, which is a temperate climate in the northern hemisphere, and it's not easy to grow peppers and tomatoes here, but the bottom line is we like to do so, and so do many others. So most of the seeding that will take place now will go into trays of one kind or another in a greenhouse. But there's an important classification here. I mean, this is fairly self-explanatory. Seeding is when we take a seed, or it may be a cutting or a grafting, and we put it into soil. Now in this case, there'll be the first seeding, which is, like I just said, into trays in the greenhouse. We can see them here: tomatoes, peppers, etc. And then the next phase will be seeding directly into soils in the property. Personally, as a personal comment, I find it more powerful to grow things from seed in the ground because we're not transplanting. This is just a personal comment here. So anyway, let's continue. So we're looking at seedings here that are planned. The next main category we're going to look at here is what's called in farmOS and Permaledger plantings. Now a planting, I'm just going to click into that. A planting is something that needs to go into soil of one kind or another to grow. So plantings in our case, we just scroll down right to the bottom of this screen here, which lists all the plantings we have. It shows that we have 3,000. If you look here, it says displaying 1 to 50 of 3,029. So we have 3,029 plantings in this database. However, there's another classification which is really important, which I'm going to show next, and that's what we call these are what we call priority, are things that we actually have material for. Again, most of this will be seeds, some of it will be cuttings, and some will be graftings, and other than bare roots too. I forgot about bare roots. So we just filtered that by priority, which means what we've actually got on hand. And we scroll down to the bottom of the screen again, and as you can see here, it says 2498. So we've got 2,498 articles in our collection, which is largely speaking seeds. So this is the first subdivision of Permaledger. So we have seedings, which is what's planned to go into the ground, and of course will be in the ground once they're there, or in the greenhouse in a tray of some kind or other. And then we've got plantings, which are material that we can draw from to put into seedings. I think that's a good way of describing it in a hierarchy. So plantings are what we've got on hand that can be put into soil, and seedings are what are either planned to go into soil or have gone into soil, and the difference between those two is the date. Hopefully this is picking up, by the way. I got carried away then and turned away whilst I was talking. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to look at a particular planting which we've seeded many times over the years, which is a fava bean. So I'm looking at, I've put on the name, I'm filtering by fava, and priority means we've got the seeds on hand, so let's apply that and see what we get. Okay, so we got a list of fava beans here that we've actually got as seeds. So you can also see, by the way, just while we're on the screen, each listing in the database, pretty much, these are fairly new, so we haven't assigned them a QR code yet. So each listing has a QR code, and each QR code is unique. And I'll dig into the fava bean I want to show here. I don't want to go on too long. This is a really beautiful Italian heirloom, which has a wonderful purple seed. Anybody that's in and around Eugene and has gone into our seed exchange, which is very low at the moment. Anyway, we have a seed exchange in Eugene Backyard Farmer here in Eugene, and you will have seen this bean over the years. That exchange has been there for like 2 or 3 years. It's very low at the moment, largely speaking, because I'm not physically in Eugene anymore, but that's something we're working on. So we will be building that up again. Anyway, let's focus on this particular, so it's a bean. It's called Extra Presosia Grano Violetto. Sorry about my pronunciation, by the way. I'm from Burnley in England. Anyway, so what we can see here is, I mentioned earlier that a seeding is when we take a seed and we put it into the ground, into the soil, sorry. Well, it is the ground, isn't it? That's another story in its own right. So let's stay with soil, because in this case 90% of what we do, probably 95%, goes directly into the ground. And you can see some of what we already did, which is last year we seeded quite a number into the ground here at out in Veneta, which is where I am, and they're already happily growing. It's been a particularly dry and I wouldn't say particularly cold, but certainly particularly dry year so far, so we're watching that very carefully. I will mention another thing in passing. When something survives adversity and does well, and particularly if it does that over maybe 2 or 3 seasons or maybe more, we would class that as a landrace, and we're particularly focusing on landrace seeds because these are seeds that have adapted to the local environment that they're growing in, and they've done well. And done well can mean a few things. It can mean they grew well, and it can mean they tasted good too, and I think those two together will be a wonderful combination. So this is like I said here, we're looking at this single fava bean. That's the QR code. If you scan that with an external device, it will bring you to this page, and this page has a lot of information on it. As you can see, these are all the seedings we've done over the years. Scroll down, things that activities are things we've done that relate to planting fava beans. Observations, that's things that we've seen, as it says at the top of the screen, new sprouting. So we saw these fava beans starting to sprout on November 4th. So by comparing that to seedings, we can get some idea of how well things are going, which can relate to the soil. Harvests are when we've harvested the beans, and I've just started recently counting the number of beans that we're getting from a particular harvest. In this case, what this is showing us, the top listing, it's showing us that we got 121 beans from one plant, which is pretty amazing. That's a lot. You can see the one below is slightly different. We get 480 from eight plants. So that this is keeping track of how well things are doing, and looking back at why they did better and so on. So this is really the main introduction I wanted to give to Permaledger today. We're tracking seeds, largely speaking. We do also track, as I repeated myself again, cuttings and graftings. And with that said, we'll go back to the introductory screen, which is where we are here. Oh, we meant one more comment. We actually have just short of 2,500 seed varieties. Now that's varieties, not quantity. The quantity is into the millions. But the point is just to give that some sort of context. A very well-known seed company in the United States, seed suppliers, they claim 1,500 varieties. So we've got nearly 2,500 varieties, and that's not bragging or anything like that. It's just trying to give some sort of comparison to what we have in comparison to what's out there. Okay, that's it. That's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to do a short introduction to Permaledger. We'll probably do more in the future, but that's really wanting to give what we're doing with it and what what we can do with it. Thank you.